Around 20 years ago, back in high school, our school building had this big basement that they used as a storage area. They ended up blocking it off with metal bars at the top of the stairs. Even though we couldn't go in, it seemed like there were rooms down there, like classrooms. We'd shine flashlights through the bars, trying to see inside. It was off limits, but that just made us more curious. We'd hear spooky stories about it, and even though we laughed about it, there was always this mix of curiosity and fear among us. My close friend Sam came to us one day and asked if we were curious about the basement of the school. Our answer was of course yes. We were younger. All kinds of adventures appealed to us, but we could not even imagine what we would experience. When we asked Sam how to get there, he said, "I watched the janitor leaving the warehouse. He immediately put the key in the cabinet next to the bars. But that cabinet was always locked." Sam also knew this. At that moment, Tony spoke up and said, "Guys, that cabinet has been broken for 2 to 3 days. It is not locked or anything. They won't have it done before Monday." Tony was also the president of the student union. He met frequently with the deputy principals, and he must have heard that the lock of the cabinet was not working at that time. "Then we're staying after school tonight and going in," I said. I could see the excitement in Tony and Sam's eyes. They both nodded their approval to me. When the school emptied out, we stayed behind, saying we were still discussing something. The only problem was avoiding the janitors patrolling the halls. We had to hide whenever we heard footsteps, ducking into classrooms or bathrooms until we finally made it to the basement. Just as Sam had predicted, the key was indeed in the broken cabinet. With 2 flashlights to guide us, the darkness inside seemed both ominous and intriguing. We pushed open the barred entrance and stepped inside, greeted by a vast corridor with countless compartments awaiting exploration. Unsure of what we might find, we anticipated the tales we'd share with our classmates the next day. Tony led the way, with Sam beside him and me following closely behind. The corridor was cluttered with boxes, old desks, and tables. As we walked, Tony's flashlight illuminated a word on the wall, written in an unfamiliar alphabet as though it had been there for years. The space felt as if someone had once lived there. As we continued forward, we discovered more writings, filling us with excitement and a touch of fear. Suddenly, the sound of an iron door echoed from the end of the corridor. It must have been a janitor. Acting quickly, I darted into the nearest room to avoid being seen, my heart pounding with fear. But when I emerged, Tony and Sam were nowhere to be found. Panicked, I called out to Tony, but there was no response. Left alone in the pitch-black darkness, I felt a sense of isolation unlike any other. I struggled to see in the dim light of my phone screen, carefully moving back into the corridor. No janitor was nearby. Again, I called softly, "Tony, Sam, where are you?" A voice answered from nearby, "Jack, over here." It came from a nearby room. With growing fear, I entered, finding it filled with old desks and boxes, a reminder of its past as a classroom. But Tony and Sam were nowhere to be found. "Where are you?" I called again. Another voice replied, "I'm here, by the wall." As I groped my way towards them, I realized they were in the room next door, separated only by an iron-barred window. Sam tapped on the wall to signal their presence. I reached through the window, saying, "Sam, I'm here." In that moment, I felt a reassuring grip. "You're here? I'll come to your room," I assured them. But as I searched for the exit, it seemed to vanish. The room's layout had shifted. Walls greeted me at every turn, my phone's glow offering little help. Returning to the bars, I called out to Tony and Sam once more. As I asked them to give me the flashlight, the door of the room I was in was opened, and someone entered. I immediately urged them to hide. I wasn't alone anymore. Probably a janitor had come inside. The fear of punishment and ridicule from my classmates held me back from demanding to be let out. Instead, I chose to hide. But there were no footsteps. Something felt off. I had to move slowly again and approach the bars. If I could take the flashlight from Tony, we could escape this damn place. I went to the window between the 2 rooms and silently signaled to Tony to toss over the flashlight. They passed me a something, which I accepted. Upon closer inspection, I realized it was a flashlight, old, dusty, and sticky. Despite its condition, I managed to find the button and turn it on. When I flicked on the flashlight, shadows danced across the walls, sending a shiver down my spine. I hesitated to inquire who might be there, instead opting to sweep the beam around the room. It revealed an old, dilapidated classroom, its walls crumbling and covered in dust. The chalkboard bore the ominous message, "Get out." Fear gnawed at my sanity as I struggled to comprehend the situation. Suddenly, the door creaked open once more, and a beam of light pierced the darkness, illuminating my face. "So, you're here," a voice declared. Strangely, I felt a sense of relief at being discovered. "I'm sorry, I must have wandered in by mistake," I stammered, as the person grabbed my arm and led me back into the corridor. However, as we walked, a sense of unease settled over me. It seemed we were heading in the wrong direction. The exit door lay behind us. Despite my repeated inquiries of, "Where are we going?" the silence was deafening. Then, a familiar voice called out from behind, "Jack, where are you?" It was Tony. As I turned, a powerful flashlight illuminated the scene, revealing Tony, Sam, and a school official staring back at me. The person who had been beside me had vanished and was nowhere to be found. The school guard was yelling, "You there? It's off limits!" We quickly obeyed and left. I knew we'd face serious consequences the next day, but I couldn't bring myself to care. I turned to Tony and Sam, asking urgently, "How did you guys get out of that room?" They stared back at me, puzzled. I repeated, "How did you get out?" "You know, the room with the barred window where you handed me the flashlight." "We never did," Tony replied. Sam chimed in, "You vanished suddenly. We looked around, then left to find help. We weren't even there for 10 minutes. Fear gripped me as I struggled to distinguish between reality and dream. Still clutching the old flashlight, I examined it closely, realizing it was covered in grime and rust, untouched for years. I wondered whether the entities I encountered in these dark rooms and corridors weren't of this world. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for similar content.